Viewers, for some days now, activists have been suggesting, activists in the opposition have been suggesting that the crackdown on alleged Maoists is part of a collective effort by the NDA to silence dissent. Today, Times Now has accessed an explosive document. It's right here in my hand, which shows that the NDA is, at least on paper, no more guilty than the UPA of this alleged crime against democracy. The trouble is that the activists who are creating this impression will never admit to this fact. Here are the hard facts that establish what I am saying, and all of these hard facts are excerpted from this affidavit, which has been accessed by Internal Security Editor Nikunj Garg. Times Now accesses a 2013 UPA affidavit submitted in the Supreme Court, filed in response to a writ petition 738/2013. All the details are mentioned here. This writ was filed in the matter of Kishore Samrite versus the Union of India and others in the Supreme Court in the November, to be precise, of 2013. In this affidavit, UPA claims supporters of CPIM, which is the banned Marxist organization, in the cities, now listen to this, in cities have concertedly used propaganda to malign the state. The reference for the first time is to cities and towns. Here it is. Ideologues who have kept the Maoist movement alive are in many ways more dangerous, it says, to the cadres of the People Liberation Guerrilla Army. The ideologue and supporters of the CPI Maoist party in cities and towns have undertaken a concerted and systematic propaganda against the state. That's right. Maoist ideologues branded in affidavit more dangerous than People's Liberation Guerrilla Army. Affidavit admits legal proceedings often result in negative publicity for enforcement agencies due to the effectiveness of the propaganda machinery, which is exactly what is happening today. Viewers, you might remember yesterday, a large number of activists came together. Those pictures you will see in just about 10 seconds. If Nizam Bhai would just fire them, there you see them on air. These activists came together just like the UPA in 2013 apprehended, viewers, and tried to suggest that the state and the enforcement machinery of the state was completely working to a different beat, a beat where it wanted to disembowel democracy itself. UPA in this affidavit has also told the court it was committed to combating this problem with all resources at its disposal, and the efforts, they are said, are bearing fruit. It's right here for you to see. It's all here, and it's here in black and white. I haven't made any of this up. These are summations by the UPA. By the UPA. There are references, therefore, to urban Naxals, first made by the UPA. Now, Internal Security Editor Nikunj Garg joins us. Nikunj, I don't want to oversimplify this, but I think the facts, as gleaned from this affidavit that you have accessed, make it quite clear what the imputation is.
Well, Rahul, you have pointed out towards certain facts that are exactly as you have mentioned in this affidavit, part of which we have accessed. Now, I wish to draw the viewers' attention to the background of this document and how and why we have accessed it today. This document was filed as part of a writ petition, as you mentioned. Now, Integrated Action Plan, IAP, was the UPA-2's flagship program to deal with the Naxal problem in the entire Red Corridor. Per district, rupees 25 crore per year was to be put at the disposal directly at the hands of the district collector and the senior superintendent of police. Now, in the implementation of that IAP, which was launched by the most hardline UPA minister, Home Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, there were some glaring lapses. There were some glaring problems that were being faced by the state administration. In one such case, one activist from Balaghat, the activist's name also is mentioned, a political leader actually from Balaghat, one of the most poverty-stricken and impoverished districts of the Madhya Pradesh state, went to the courts. And in the Supreme Court of India, UPA 2 was made respondent. By that time, the most hardline UPA Home Minister, as I have been calling him, I'll explain to the viewers why, Mr. P. Chidambaram had gone back to the Ministry of Finance. A year and a half had passed. Mr. Sushil Kumar Shinde, who was by no measure a hardliner, was at the helm of affairs of the Ministry of Home Affairs. He had finally approved of this affidavit. So very clearly, there was a policy running in the UPA 1 and the UPA 2 that Mr. Shinde, who's a very moderate politician and a very benign sort of an administrator, endorsed. Now, because of this, because of the serious impediments being put by these urban naxals, the term being used by the UPA 2 and popularized today because of the media and intellectual sort of onslaught on the present day government, were facing some sort of action from the government side.
Yes.
And that is why the government said what it said and what it needed to be said. Now, why have I accessed it? You know, line ministries are usually extremely conservative in going back to their files. Why I accessed it is because I wanted to see for myself, and at that time I was not wanting to put it out for the viewers. I wanted to see if there is a drastic change under the NDA Home Minister, again a very moderate politician and a moderate administrator, Mr. Rajnath Singh, in the policy of dealing with the Naxals. And I coaxed, I nudged, I cajoled the entire LWE functionalities in the Ministry of Home Affairs, and finally some sources culled out this for me. Obviously, they refused to give out the entire affidavit, which is a court's property. But this document was culled out. Now, another important, just one fact I want to draw to the viewers' attention is that the affidavit says filed by UPA. It's the last official document that the UPA came out with on the Naxal policy of the government of the day. Last official document. Now, it says since the year 2001, the Maoists have killed 5,969 civilians. It also says that more than 2,147 civilians have been, security forces personnel have been killed by Maoists. In close to 1 decade, nearly 10,000 deaths at the hands of the Maoists, guerrillas armed. And this same very extract say that in some cases, urban Naxals, their ideologues, sympathizers are more dangerous than the People's Guerrilla Liberation Armies, guerrillas who are fighting in the jungles.
Yes.
It is for our viewers to draw the parallel, draw the summation, how dangerous this urban support for this Maoist problem in this country is, how insidious, how pernicious.
These are the UPA's own words, not mine. They admitted this in 2013 that there was a problem that was being posed by front organizations that they called NGOs, that belong, populated by academicians and activists in NGOs. And here, viewers, I'm going to show you another document. You have seen the affidavit. The affidavit most probably became the foundation document for this. Government of India, Ministry of Home Affairs, RPN Singh, responding to an unsparred question number 3838. And he goes on to say, and here it is, on occasions during operations by security forces, the CPI Maoist underground cadres shift to softer areas, including urban areas, looking for safe hideouts. And it goes on to elaborate on what they believe. Of late, it has come to notice that members of such front organizations are mentoring professional revolutionaries to be inducted into the underground movement. They are also adept at disseminating of propaganda and disinformation. The front organizations, on such occasions, the overground front organizations provide safe hideouts to armed cadre. Now, who are these front organizations that the UPA was referring to? He was referring to this list, viewers, of NGOs. Here they are. Here they are. State by state, Andhra Pradesh, Revolutionary Writers Association, no prizes for guessing who comes from this one. Democratic Student Union in Bihar, Krantikari Kisan Committee, Krantikari Buddhijeevi Sangh, Mazdoor Kisan Sangram Samiti, Nari Mukti Sangh, Revolutionary Democratic Front, so-and-so, Chhattisgarh, Delhi. Delhi also has a huge number. Gujarat. All the states, mostly of the Indian Union, the major ones, NGOs working for so-called social uplift, have been listed not by the NDA but by the UPA as front organizations, people by whom that the UPA says are, here it is, ideologues who have kept the Maoist movement alive and are in many ways more dangerous than the cadre of the People's Liberation Guerrilla Army. And in the meantime, the ideologues and supporters of the CPI Maoist party in cities and towns have undertaken a concerted and systematic propaganda against the state to project the state in a poor light and also malign it through disinformation campaign. This is what it said. This is what it said. It goes on to say, however, initiating legal proceedings against them has been often resulted in negative publicity for the enforcement agencies due to the effectiveness of the propaganda machinery of the CPI Maoist party. However, regardless of this, the Union of India is committed to combating this problem with all resources at its disposal, and the efforts are gradually bearing fruit on the ground. Words, viewers, by the UPA. Yet, and let me now draw your attention to this document that I have. This is a facsimile of what Rahul Gandhi has said. He said after these 5 intellectuals, activists were arrested, this is what he tweeted. There is only place for one NGO in India, and it called the RSS. Shut down all NGOs, jail all activists and shoot those that complain. Welcome to New India. Well, Rahul Gandhi ji, your own government had worked tirelessly to shut down NGOs. I have shown you the list. RPN Singh responding to unstart questions in Parliament, making claims. It's there for you to see. Who is shutting down? Who is shutting down these NGOs? Who began the process? And today, for some reason, you have individuals who come out and who say fascist fangs are now openly bared. It is a clear declaration of emergency. They are going after anyone who has spoken against the government on rights issues. They are against any dissent. What is its immediacy? Now openly bared. Where were all these individuals when the UPA was bearing fangs at these NGOs, these intellectuals, these academicians, these trade unionists, these civil rights lawyers? Where was this entire cabal of individuals then? Emergency now? But what then? What then? What then? How are things changing so dramatically for all these individuals to today come out and suggest that the NDA has declared emergency? Let's throw this open. Joining me this evening, Shazia Ilmi, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Professor Rakesh Sinha, Rajya Sabha MP, Ashutosh Mishra, senior journalist, Dr. Suman Siraman, political analyst, and Nikunj Garg stays with us because clarifications will be sought as we continue, as people try to even twist this around. I want to bring in Suman Siraman. Suman Siraman, you see the parallel there? It is perhaps more pronounced because it's in black and white, Rahul, testified to in the Supreme Court by the UPA, by the Union Home Ministry. Now tell me,
Rahul,
are these, no, I'm asking the questions.
Rahul, you will...
Wait a minute, let me finish my question, sir. You can't guess the question that I'm asking because I haven't asked it. Now, if the UPA had also admitted the presence of urban Maoists, can activists today singularly accuse the NDA of assaulting dissent, sir? Simple question to you.
Rahul, You will recall in yesterday's debate, I said very clearly it was absolutely hypocritical on the part of the Congress party to try and pin the blame down exclusively on the NDA government, because it was they who actually started this crackdown. And if you recall, it is not just UPA 1 or UPA 2. Right from the late 80s, 90s, whoever has been in power at the center has not had a very, very sympathetic attitude towards the quote-unquote Naxals, Maoists, whatever you call them. For obvious reasons, there have been certain, and there have been many cases which have come up even earlier in the past of alleged quote-unquote excesses. So I clearly agree with you that the UPA is in no position. In fact, I was saying the same thing yesterday, that it's not for the Congress to criticize this government on this issue, but by the same token, two wrongs don't make a right. You can't justify an unjustified crackdown on somebody simply because the Congress did the same thing. This government was elected not to repeat what the UPA did. In fact, it was elected primarily not to do that. So to go back and say the UPA did the same mistake,
the
so
allusion
okay
is
if we make that mistake, is not right.
Okay.
This case must be judged on the merits of the case. If the people are guilty, they should be given exemplary punishment.
Good.
But this has got to be judged on the merits.
Good. For once, sir, you have taken a reasonable position, Mr. Raman. One second. Let's not all speak over each other. Now let me tell you. Let me tell you the problem here. The problem is that there is a whole group of individuals who has parked themselves on the streets of this country, who have rattled the doors of the court, and they're entitled to do this. But what have they done? They are maligning today the institutions of the state, so much so that the police, in an unprecedented move, viewers, it's never happened before that the police has felt under such pressure that they've had to hold a press conference. And I want to play out what the police had to reveal today under pressure from this group of individuals, the opposition, and many others who are today proclaiming the death of democracy in this country. They came out, and they came out with this kind of evidence and forensic record. What is this? These are downloaded pictures of guns. Guns, weapons which will make your spine tingle. Viewers, grenade launchers, Chinese-made automatic grenade launchers, all sorts of cartridges, WPA polyformance cartridges. Here you can see them, Winchester Armory cartridges, models of other guns which fire 500 to 650 rounds per minute, letters that talk about acquisitions. These catalogs were contained in password protected zip files that have been forensically evaluated. The police, viewers, has been made to come out and literally beg its case in public. Now, Ashutosh Mishra, isn't this shameful? Isn't this shameful, sir, that the police, the law enforcement, and remember, sir, the UPA said this, not the NDA. They said initiating legal proceedings against them means the overground workers, the same individuals who are today allegedly accused of supporting the Maoist banned terror groups. Initiating legal proceedings against them has often resulted in negative publicity for the enforcement agencies due to the effectiveness of the propaganda machinery of the CPI Maoist party. It is quite possible that the UPA, towards its last years in power, lost the nerve to do what this government has done, which is, regardless of this, the Union of India is committed to combating this problem. They have just continued doing exactly what the UPA was planning to do, ran out of time or conviction. So I'm asking you, Ashutosh Mishra, is a false campaign today being mounted by vested interests as specified not by me but by the UPA to derail the investigation, to malign the state agencies? Simple question.
So the first thing is that the Maoists don't believe in ballot, they believe in bullet, so nobody can support them. But in this particular case, what we are seeing is that a class war is being turned into a caste war. This whole
one second. We are talking about the arrests of these 5 alleged suspected Maoist sympathizers. No, 1 second. They are all belonging to organizations that the UPA put on a watch list and call them the active front organizations of the CPI Maoists. So what has the NDA done? They've only exercised the law after finding the proof and apprehending these people. Why don't you concede that there is great hypocrisy at work here?
No hypocrisy.
Say that it's hypocrisy.
No hypocrisy here. What is happening here is the fact, as the Supreme Court has also observed, that dissent is being tried to be suppressed.
My dear friend, don't sit in judgment of this case.
Supreme Court has
it is sub judice. It is before the Supreme Court. I am talking about how people are prejudging this entire affair. People are holding press conferences, making statements. No, 1 second. It's not a political problem, sir.
Because this
the UPA called it. No. UPA called these individuals insecure. No, please. I'm not going to allow you to mislead. It's not a political problem.
It's not
political when the UPA comes out and says. Now listen to what they came out and said. Listen to me. These ideologues who have kept the Maoist movement alive are in many ways more dangerous than the cadre of the People's Liberation Guerrilla Army. Nikunj Garg, how is this a political problem? This is directly a national security issue.
Because the Maharashtra government is involved here.
Maharashtra government? What are you talking about? The Maharashtra government under the UPA arrested Mahesh Rawat.
This is against.
Mahesh Rawat was arrested, a PMRD fellow. Listen to me, sir. Prithviraj Singh government.
Close to one of the accused.
Prithviraj Chavan government, sir.
Report.
You will remember.
Nikunj will confirm.
You will remember. Prithviraj Singh Chavan government arrested a Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh appointed research fellow, and Jairam Ramesh had to plead on his behalf, and he belonged to some of these organizations, these NGOs that the UPA designated as frontal organizations. The NDA does the same thing, but it's an emergency declaration. The UPA does it. It is a crackdown against anti-national forces.
Because
where is this hypocrisy coming from? Let me bring in Nikunj.
To hide its failures.
Let me bring in Nikunj. That could be said about the UPA also. Concede that point and we will move ahead. What do you think the UPA had achieved in the last 4 years of its time in office? Please. Nikunj Garg.
Well, Rahul, you have raised a very pertinent point, and my only submission that I was actually wanting to make after the introduction was that in light of this document, I am only hoping political parties will always indulge in some amount of double speak. But I am only hoping that in the matters of national interest and in the matters of foreign policy, one can see some amount of cohesion in the policies, in the continuance of the policies, whether the governments change, they are held by NDA or the UPA.
Which is a good
thing. BJP and the Congress, the two national parties, must not sacrifice the national interest at the altar of the political opportunism, is what I hope to achieve by putting out this document in the public domain. That's my hope and
Chopra,
prayer.
That's what's happening today. Concede.
I will not concede. The police helped lynching in Rajasthan. Ministers,
what has that got to do with this crackdown, sir?
Police killed the father of a rape victim and later...
What has that got to do with this? Address the question I've asked you. Hypocrisy. You can't admit in 2013 and deny in 2018. In 2013, your government comes down and lists NGOs in a list of frontal organizations of a terror group, and then in 2013 you perk up. Rahul Gandhi perks up and says there is only place for one NGO in India and it's called the RSS. Shut down all other NGOs, jail all activists and shoot those that complain. You are doing the same. It is proven here. You tell me now.
You are actually protecting killers.
Okay, I am protecting killers.
Simple language for that.
Okay, protecting killers. I am protecting the police.
In their cases.
I am now accused of protecting the police, sir. You accord me too many powers. I am only bringing out. I am only bringing out the claims that were made, not by me, were made by the UPA. Rakesh Sinha, would you like to respond, sir?
I'm showing
you are protecting killers, says Mr. Chopra. You are protecting killers. You need to respond to it. You are protecting killers. Your police force today is arresting other people because you are protecting killers and shielding them. Respond.
Challenge them.
For the benefit of the Times Now's millions of viewers and the CPM, Rahul, you know, when CPM came into power in West Bengal, the first job was cleansing the Naxalites. Not less than 2,000 supporters of Kanu Sanyal and Charu Majumdar, who were the founders of the Naxal movement in India, were wiped out by the CPM. Now CPM is trying to support the Maoists. There are two reasons, Rahul, that I want to convey the audience of the Times Now.
Maoists, sir, you are talking about Naxalites killing. CPM Kala Maoists have killed Indian jawans, security forces. Don't try to valorize one life over another. Sorry. Sorry.
They are disguising as a professionals.
Disgusting.
They are perpetuating the concept of class war and supporting the Naxals. Mr. Chopra, Times Now has revealed certain documents. These documents categorically shows that these organizations were banned during the UPA regime. I am talking two organizations, Communist Party of India Maoist, Communist Party of India Marxist Leninist. Both the organizations were banned. I disagree with Mr. Raman. Raman said that one wrong does not make the other wrong right. It is not a question of wrong, Mr. Raman. When you are using violence as a tool to unsettle the constitution, to unsettle the civil society, then the crackdown is imperative. And not a single NGO can claim that they are right, but there has been crackdown.
One of the persons who was arrested, one of the persons who was arrested,
they don't want to, they don't want the auditing of their money, they don't want to release their expenditure on the website,
Mr. Rakesh Sinha, Mr. Arun, who has been arrested now, are you aware that he already spent over 4 years in jail and then was acquitted? Are you aware of that, Mr. Sinha?
Yes. One of the men who has been picked up now. If any innocent is arrested, he should be
gentlemen, let me lower everyone's feathers. Look, I think you people are missing the point. This is not about culpability and guilt. This is about calling out hypocrisy. There is a group of individuals who say that India under this government has taken a turn for the worse because we are now in the throes of an emergency. The point is, the same circumstances existed more than 4 years ago under the UPA. But this same group of individuals at that time, at least a majority of them, were not suggesting that there was an emergency. What has changed? What has changed? Why this two-facedness? A few people, and let me tell you, a few people have been consistent to the last letter and T. Arundhati Roy, for instance, criticized in a 33-page article in the Outlook magazine, if my memory serves me right, Mr. Chidambaram's policy of going after these very individuals, these so-called overground workers or cadre of a banned terror organization. She also came out and condemned Operation Green Hunt. Apart from 2 or 3 of these people, the rest who have appended themselves are being hypocritical in the extreme, especially the opposition, especially people like Rahul Gandhi and the left parties. That's the point we are trying to make here. And they are trying to create the impression that one particular government has led us down a blind alley. That's the debate. Shazia Ilmi, I want you to come out and defend that point. Because today people are saying that you are the worst of the worst.
Well, there is...
You are proponents of a McCarthyism. You are the proponents of a Nazism. You are like the brown shirts in Nazi Germany. You are, in fact, worse than the Gestapo. That's what they're saying.
Well, I don't feel the need to defend myself at all. All the facts that you presented, and the fact of the matter is that 7 out of 10 arrested were considered auxiliaries of the flagged outfits, Maoist outfits flagged by none other than UPA. So UPA has been consistently inconsistent. They are so desperate to come to power. They are so desperate to take on Narendra Modi that they become hypocritical. And that hypocrisy is so pathetic that they get found out.
We are going to come back to recap this story after this short break. It's hypocrisy born out of a sense of deep-seated pique against the Prime Minister. Does that bear up? Does that argument bear up? We'll ask that question when we return. Stay with me. Don't go away, viewers. Viewers, for some days now, activists have been suggesting that the crackdown on alleged Maoists is part of a collective effort by the NDA to silence dissent. They have even come out and said that an emergency has been declared in this country. Today, Times Now has accessed an explosive document which shows that the NDA is, at least on paper, no more guilty than the UPA of this alleged crime against democracy that is being alleged to have been committed by Narendra Modi and his regime. The trouble is that the activists who are creating this impression will never admit to this fact. Now, here are the hard facts that establish what I am saying. These documents that you're going to see on your screens, viewers, are part of a 2013 UPA affidavit submitted in the Supreme Court, filed in response to the writ petition 738/2013. In this affidavit, the UPA claims that supporters of the CPI Maoists, which is a banned terror organization in cities, have concertedly used propaganda to malign the state. Supporters of, in the cities, the first time that urban India was drawn, or a link between urban India and those in the forests was drawn, not by the NDA, not by some ultra right-wing demagogue, but by the UPA itself. This note goes on to say, Maoist ideologues branded in affidavit more dangerous than People's Liberation Guerrilla Army. Who are we talking about? Maoist ideologues who are academicians, trade union leaders, activists who belong to certain front organizations, and the UPA took care to list these organizations, these NGOs. The affidavit admits that legal proceedings result in, and I quote it, negative publicity for enforcement agencies due to effectiveness of the propaganda machinery. Today, the circumstances are the same. Legal proceedings are being conducted, but some individuals perhaps are creating the impression, out of a deliberate sense of intervention, to suggest that the state is acting arbitrarily. The UPA told the court it was committed to combating this problem with all resources at its disposal, and the efforts are bearing fruit. These are the words of the UPA, not the NDA. Rahul Gandhi then tweets now in 2018 to say, well, there is only place for one NGO in this country, and it's called the RSS. Shut down all other NGOs. Rahul Gandhi, it was your government that wanted to proscribe these NGOs. The Congress party and other activists in opposition are today exaggerating. Exaggerating. Did they forget 2013? Or is it selective amnesia in 2018? Very quickly, I want to go back to our panelists. The charge is direct. Mr. Chopra, selective amnesia, sir, and I want you for once to answer the charge. What has changed between 2013 and 2018?
I will answer. There is no change between 2013 and 2018 in the character of the police and the way in which it treats the innocent citizen. But there is one difference. The courts acquitted most of these people they have arrested now illegally, and they kidnapped them and took them away from their homes. And the Supreme Court had to have them brought back under house arrest. That did not happen before.
Okay. You want to respond, Rakesh Sinha, before I wrap this up?
You know, Rahul, I want to come in.
1 second,
Rahul,
Rakesh
no,
Sinha.
No, Rahul, I want to come in now.
I am reminding Mr.
Why
Chopra
there
during the
Rahul, I want to make a point.
during the UPA regime, the Kudakulam nuclear plant in Tamil Nadu, there was a protest by the NGO, and it was the UPA government which cracked down. 3 NGOs license immediately cancelled, more than 15 arrested. Most of the NGO were related to the Christian organizations.
Okay.
And the flow of money from outside. And all the money which came from as a donation,
okay,
the money came for the rural development, but they used money to create disaffection.
The money from ISIS is no different from money from
his own regime.
Okay.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh is an organization where people renounce.
Okay, 1 second.
Money to work.
This will continue. The ding-dong battle between political adversaries will continue. The charge is that the NDA has gone legally forward in a misdirected step, has taken a misdirected step, arrested people without following the guidelines. Nikunj Garg wants to quickly come in, and I want to leave it with Nikunj Garg, who has broken this story. Very quickly, Nikunj. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Rahul, I'll just take a minute. The fact is that I still remember very distinctly asking Mr. Chidambaram about the extreme force push that he was at that point of time insisting and delivering in the Red Corridor. And he told me, these are his words, that the levels of violence espoused and created by the Reds are completely unacceptable in a democratic country. And that's why this kind of action is necessitated. I very distinctly remember Mr. Chidambaram's word, Rahul.
Well, he also had words and advice to offer to Arundhati Roy in that particular time. Anyone can Google those statements. He in fact accused them of living in a fool's paradise. I leave it at that.